I have been talking a lot lately about the Society of St. Pius X, and there is an issue that should be addressed. It's the accusation that Achille Cardinal Leonard, who ordained and who Lefebvre chose to have consecrate him as bishop, was a high-level Freemason. And the claim is that a high-level Freemason probably does not have the intention to do what the Church does in conferring the sacraments, especially holy orders, which we're dealing with here. I agree with the possibility that a high-level Freemason, as an enemy of the Church and an infiltrator, might not have the intention to do what the Church does. But let us look at the question. Was Achille Leinert a Mason? When you trace down the evidence, it all comes back to one report. And here it is. Lefebvre gave a conference in Montreal, Canada on May 27, 1976, and this is what he said. Talking about Cardinal Leonard. Now, 2 months ago in Rome, the traditionalist periodical Chiesa Viva, which means Living Church, published, I have seen it in Rome with my own eyes, on the back side of the cover, the photograph of Cardinal Leonard with all his Masonic paraphernalia, the day of the date of his inscription in Masonry, then the date at which he rose to the 20th and to the 30th degree of Masonry, attached to this lodge, to that lodge, at this place, at that place. Meanwhile, about 2 or 3 months after this publication was made, I heard nothing about any reaction or any contradiction. Now, unfortunately, I must say to you that this Cardinal Leonard is my bishop. It is he who ordained me a priest. It is he who consecrated me a bishop. I cannot help it. Unfortunately, the orders are valid. But in spite of it, it was very painful for me to be informed of it. The important point here is the date of this conference, which I'll get to in a moment. First of all, someone actually looked up the article, and there was not a picture of Cardinal Leonard in Masonic garb. There was a picture of Cardinal Leonard, a cassock or whatever, and then underneath him some Masonic symbolism in another picture. So why did Lefebvre get it wrong? That's why the date here is extremely important. May 27, 1976. On May 22nd of 1976, I happen to know where Archbishop Lefebvre was, because he was in Stafford, Texas, at St. Jude's Shrine, which is no longer with society, and that's a story unto itself, which we'll touch on very briefly here, because that's the day he confirmed me as bishop that evening. Confirmed me, since he was a bishop. Now, that morning, 3 Mexican priests came to visit him, Fathers Sainz Arriaga, Carmona, and Zamora. Father Sainz had determined the vacancy of the papacy and written a book called Sede Vacante. These 3 priests were there to talk to Archbishop Lefebvre about electing a pope. So, in other words, he had something big on his mind already. More is coming. May 23rd, he had another confirmation, also in Stafford, Texas. He stayed to May 24th. Gary Giffray, his brother, his father, and Ron Keller, who were the board of directors of the Traditional Catholics of Greater Houston, I believe is the name of the corporation that owned St. Jude's Shrine. They had a meeting with Archbishop Lefebvre because they had discovered pornography in the apartment of the priest who was assigned by Lefebvre to handle that area, that church, and many other chapels, mass centers throughout this part of the United States. And this was not minor stuff. This was hardcore pornography that was discovered when I think women were in cleaning the apartment they rented for him. And so Lefebvre was confronted with this information. I think they even had the pictures there and showed him just enough so he would know, yeah, this is a serious matter. And that's why he probably got the picture mixed up, because he already had a lot on his mind. He finds out that the bishop that ordained and consecrated him is a Mason, and he believed it. Now, is it true? Well, I traced it down. A lot of places now say Achille Leonard was a Mason. But they all go back to the same book. The book was, I believe, Infallibility of something. I don't have the name of the book. Yeah, here it is. La Infallibilité Pontificale by the Marquis de Lefebvre. Father Anthony Cicada has written an article on this. He has looked this up, and the Marquis de Lefebvre has no proof. He cites no evidence to support this. So the claim is now set aside because there's no evidence. If we're going to say something about someone, we had better have evidence to prove it. But let us go to the question. What if Leenert did have a perverse intention, and he withheld intention in ordaining and consecrating Lefebvre? That would mean Lefebvre would still be a deacon. All right? He would not be a priest. He would not be a bishop. Right? Wrong. You go to CatholicHierarchy.org, and Lefebvre, principal consecrator, Achille Cardinal Leenert, Bishop of Lille, principal co-consecrators, Bishop Alfred Jean Félix Ancel, titular Bishop of Mérina, and Bishop Jean-Baptiste Victor Faure, the titular Bishop of Araxes. As someone observed, nobody has had any accusations against either one of these bishops, being Masons or anything else. In the consecration of a bishop, you have 3 bishops ordinarily. And all 3 consecrate. In fact, Pope Pius XII put out an order to the co-consecrators. It says, you impose your hands, you recite the prayers with the intention of consecrating. That's why they're co-consecrators. And so any one of these 3, if he had the intention, he would impose his hands, he would say the prayer with the intention of consecrating. Lefebvre is definitely a bishop. This brings up a second point. Is it necessary for a man to be a valid priest to be consecrated bishop? And I will quote from St. Thomas Aquinas. One order does not depend on the preceding order as regards the validity of the sacrament, but the episcopal power depends on the priestly power, since no one can receive the episcopal power unless he have previously the priestly power. Case closed, one would think, but it is not. There is a book, or there is an article, Relation of the Priesthood to the Episcopate, from the Jurist, which I ran across a couple of years ago in doing some research on it, actually on another subject that was brought up. And he reports, Pope Liberius was a deacon when he was made pope, and so was Gregorius Magnus, that's Gregory the Great. Antonius, mentioned by St. Augustine, was lector when he was made bishop. Episcopal ordination was given to them without previous ordination of the priesthood, and the ordination was considered valid, so that by one ordination they acquired the priesthood and the episcopacy. Okay? I looked into the matter further. De Monter, in his Lives of the Popes, reports that several popes were not ordained priests. They were raised to the episcopate straight, usually from the diaconate. And so that's what we have here. With Lefebvre, the episcopal consecration would supply the missing priestly ordination. And so, although I have a lot of things against Marcel Lefebvre, I do not consider that he was a good bishop. I consider he did great damage to the church, first by his participation in Vatican II, and secondly by his institution of the Society of St. Pius X, and creating the heresy of sacramental priests and bishops. Priests and bishops that just go out and administer the sacraments wherever they dang well please. I believe he's a destroyer of the church, but I do believe he's a valid bishop. His priests are valid. His bishops are valid.